that I was supposed to give a talk, but I'll just introduce it and we're not going to really go into it. And then also, we're also supposed to talk about the year ahead, as a community, what we're meant to do, things to look out for, opportunities for us to contribute, to the community. So I'll just use 5 minutes to just introduce what I was going to talk about, and then Larry and I will now go into the next steps for, just basically talk about the next steps for the community. Okay, so So really what I wanted to talk about was okay, so anyway, whilst this is figuring itself, it's doing self-healing, so so we'll see. When I was thinking about this talk, marvelous. I'll send you out.
My friend.
Okay, we don't have friends. So when I was thinking about this talk, I remember I just thought, let me just share, and then if other people have had this experience. Okay, first of all, what are our thoughts on this whole platform engineering thing that's been going around? What are your thoughts on it? Anybody but Marvelous, please. Okay, yeah, that's
okay. Well, I don't know who was the last PWS community. Is it this one, the last two? Where Larry, so
we
discussed a lot about it, and he mentioned some products managed by
that was at local host.
Local host.
Yeah,
local
at
host.
Bagada.
At Bagada.
Yeah, that was local.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
No, 2023.
I think.
2023.
I was there.
Yeah. He mentioned something about it, and I checked some. I even had to use some .i, and there's a particular platform .i, and it's really nice. But the only problem we had was, when we have like a different project, right? Some companies, they manage a lot of projects for different clients, and they come in with different tools. So setting it up for every
client,
yes,
became a challenge.
Yeah. So, but it's not like it's a bad idea to learn it. Right? It's just like you learning maybe another tool. You're going to learn. You know how to use GitHub Actions. You want to learn how to use GitLab. That's basically it. Your other knowledge about CI/CD, your other knowledge about CI/CD is different, right? It's just, for me, it's a plus to learn. Right? It's going to be very interesting. It's very interesting to use too.
Okay.
Explain the platform engineering first before.
My first contact was, I think there was this guy, I used to watch his video, he was talking about what it was about building, so he was describing Kubernetes that in the future it's going to be like more of the platform where tools will be built on and DevOps engineers will be deploying solutions on, they'll be building maybe this GitHub action. So he was saying that in the nearest future, the way he sees the industry going, Kubernetes will actually now become the platform. You become the standard. So for you to even come in, you must first have Kubernetes, Then he talked about building on Kubernetes, and it's like, but from what he one of the last things he said was which errors was trying to put Golang becoming a language of standard tool within which will allow people to build on Kubernetes as a platform. So that's what I
okay. So let's look at this. So how many of us work in organizations where you have like different developer teams or development teams? Okay, so how do you handle when developers need some resources? How do you
Raise the tickets.
raise tickets? So everything has to still go back to the DevOps team.
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, it still has to go back to the DevOps or infrastructure team and all. Okay, so the thing is, so there is the next evolution of that, right? Is that okay? You want a system where it's just the same way you have software as a service, right? Or you have on-demand services. So, for instance, you want an EC2 instance. You're not calling somebody in AWS to say, please, can you help me provision? You just go on the platform, or you use Terraform or whatever, you interact with the APIs and you create what you need to create, right? Even though somehow our Nigerian cloud providers have not found a way to make it on demand, you still have to speak to someone on the phone to have an account, but we're getting there. Amen?
Amen. Do we have our own cloud?
Sorry?
We have our own.
We get
No, maybe we don't talk most of.
No.
There are companies that have data centers.
Yeah. Lagos, yeah.
Even across Nigeria.
But I don't think even Rack Center provides cloud services.
Most of them don't. They provide, but they are
You have to
so
take your
enterprise that
Yeah.
there's no on-demand
Yeah.
this thing. But even though there are new guys now like Nebula, Nebula that provide on-demand. But however, just think about it. That how can that process, right, be made better? Better in the sense that what are the things that you need an environment, you need some database, some Redis, some whatever, all these resources, right? What if it's done in such a way that whatever development team you get can access an API, right? That it's on demand, whatever they need, do you get? But it's also done in such a way that it's because you have your guardrails, your company guidelines, so that some guy is not using one version, and some configurations are different, merging later on, the CI/CD it's an issue, and all of that. Because the reason why we have this system of centralized, everything has to go through the infrastructure team and all of that is because we're trying to have that uniformity, that whole, it's easier that way. Do you get? Well, we've come to a system now, to a level in the world now where we can actually build internal APIs, internal platforms, or internal development platforms, or developer platforms, IDPs, that allow that. And then there are also different ways, even in that alone, because you solve the first problem, you move your organization to this kind of automated system, right? But then, even in that alone, there are now issues. Okay, how do you do it in such a way that, because each development team, they need different things, how do you give them enough freedom, right? But you're not, you don't cage them in terms of they are so limited that there's nothing they can really do, that they eventually
They still have to reach out.
They don't exactly. They still have to reach out. They don't use what you set up, And how do you balance it with guardrails? Like this is how things must be done. Now, when this whole platform engineering thing came, one of the popular ways was a very popular project. Somebody mentioned it earlier, Backstage. All right, but later on, we started seeing that even IGP has levels. There is IGP in terms of internal development portal, and there is IGP in terms of internal development platform. You understand? So Backstage, unfortunately, falls into internal development portal. It's a wonderful tool, even though it's an annoying tool. I'll tell you my own experience with Backstage. Promise not to cry because it's a very horrifying story, but then there are also platforms. So that's where the thing we were talking about, that Ewere talked about that time, Humanitech, which gives you a platform, or rather, it gives you a framework with which to build a platform, through APIs, through whether it's UI, GUIs, or however, or we don't want to request through just a YAML. The developer guy can just put in their request, define it along with the application code on YAML. So different ways you get to request for whatever it is that they need, that the platform team, all right, formerly DevOps team, has provided. Do you understand? So there are those two things, happening now. Let me talk about the streamlined one with the Backstage and all of that. Now, Backstage is really cool in terms of it gives you that OGUI thing. But let me start with my experience with it. So, me too, I just heard, this whole platform engineering thing, everybody was, this is the thing, this is the next evolution. Do you understand? So the guy I was working with back there, I was like, I think we should use this, man. So that was how we now started trying to implement Backstage, Baba, as in waiting my IC. So we spent almost 2 months trying to just get Backstage working. Now, how Backstage works, which I didn't know at the time, is that all that it is just a GUI thing. You get it doesn't orchestrate anything in the backend, nothing. So for the backend, guess what? For every single path, so you have to go and define some sort of workflow. Wow, welcome. We're just starting actually. Yeah. Good to see you. So with just that, if you're approaching platform engineering with just that mindset of, you're going to use some sort of portal, Backstage, you understand? Without thinking of the back end, you put yourself in a lot of trouble where you have to, for every single path, what that means is every single thing that your application team, your developers will need, right? It has to be first defined. The path, the workflow, everything has to first be defined in GitHub or whatever workflow automation tool you're using. GitHub Actions, for us, that's what it was. GitHub Actions, you set up all the Terraform things. Man, that's why I say waiting my IC it was crazy. Like for me, it was not like, this is, like, I hate this job. It was meant to make this easier, but I hate this thing.
They're writing codes there.
Because I'm like, and most of the time, you're not really, those things are not going to be used because the developers are not going to use it. They're not going to, because most times they just need, like, they need some sort of freedom in what they're doing. So that's where the other side, right, of what's it called, of platform engineering now really comes in, kicks in, where you have this orchestration layer where as a platform team, you've already defined all the components, right? Just think of them as components. Just think of them as Legos. You've already defined everything, all right? Like, okay, and then you have policies and your compliance policies and all of that. That okay, this is it. So your development team, your application team, all they just need is okay. I'll take one Redis. I'll take one Postgres. I like this. So they just look at all the components.
Shopping.
You get, and they're like, and everything is automatically provided for them. Just the same way you yourself, you go on AWS and you say, I think I want this, I want this, and your bill comes at the end of the month. So that's what we're supposed to look at. One project that helps us to do this. It's called Kratix, and we were wow, this is 2:55. We're supposed to look at the project, look at the demo, and all of that, but Marvelous did not allow us. So,
excuse me.
hi, Myron.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So, the platform engineering, I've actually been thinking about it. Is it not eliminating DevOps engineers?
No.
Because everything now, like you said now, is more like we are building. So we always call it like DevOps software, as in you are modeling a DevOps engineer for the developer to make use of.
So the thing is, why I said no immediately, is because DevOps is not a role, first of all. Do you understand? DevOps is, the culture, is that way of approaching workflow. Do you understand? So platform engineering, when it is done right, is the actualization of DevOps. Do you understand? It's what DevOps is meant to be. Do you get? I don't know if like for me, coming into this space, I'm really grateful. I was so naive. Interestingly enough, this is full circle for me. Daniel was the first place when I came into DevOps. Like Daniel was the first place I came into. Like the course. I did their course, and all of that. So, and then we're now coming back here to to talk, which is really cool. So I read these books, Phoenix Project and Unicorn Project. If you've not read it, please just go and read it. You get it? Because it just gives you that. Even if you've not worked in a space where all of that happens, you get. Because for me, most of you have way more experience with G. But because that book framed it well, you get. Like I really understood what was going on. Like, oh, this is why DevOps, exists. All right. So I would suggest that please go and read that book. It's very interesting, actually. Phoenix Project and Unicorn Project is part 2. All right, and then you can also read the DevOps handbook as well. So that's all. So like I said, we were supposed to we're actually supposed to. What is this one? Yeah, Kratix. So, like, this is, he mentioned something, he said Humanitech. It's like the iPhone of what I've just spoken about. Like, it's it's premium stuff, all that you need, is there, you get. But then, it's a paid platform. I mean, seriously. How do we test these things? How do we play with them? It's paid. So but then Kratix does very similar to Humanitech.
Samsung or Techno.
This is the techno.
But it's really good. It's really cool platform. So, and it's built on Kubernetes. So you actually, the demo we're supposed to do, you actually install it on your, okay, let me just quickly explain the architecture of it. So you have your Kubernetes cluster, one Kubernetes cluster which you call the platform. Ramadi man, are we boring you? You be with your phone like So you have the platform cluster, yeah, which in the Kubernetes cluster you think of it as your control plane, but this one is an entire cluster, all right. And then so from that cluster you are able to distribute workloads on other clusters that the developers will have access to. Do you get it?
Oh.
Do you get it? So you now have different other clusters, right, that the organization uses generally, all right? And that's what the developers will interact with, the APIs, that's what they're interacting with. Do you get? But then this guy, Kratix, is on another cluster, which is the the platform cluster. That's what he used to create something called promises. So remember I used the word components earlier. All right, I just use that word because it's general. But in Kratix world, it's called promises. All right, so when you create, think of it like a template. Like, oh, okay, this database, this cache, this authentication tool, this one, those are all promises. Do you understand? And the cool thing about Kratix is that you can actually have compound promises. So promises that are made up of other promises. Do you understand? So for instance, you can have an entire environment with all the components needed. So database, authentication, everything. Do you understand? You can define it that what your organization uses. You can define all of them as individual promises. Have a compound promises that encompasses all of them. Do you understand? So your developer guy can just come, just say, okay, I want this. I want an instance of this application, for instance, and it will provision it, the entire environment. Do you understand? With every single thing needed. All right, and there are destinations. There are some things called destinations. So it can provision. You can connect it with your cloud accounts. Provision cloud resources. You can connect it with Terraform. So you can run Terraform. Your Terraform code, your Terraform configurations to provision other. Do you get? Can you see how crazy you can get with this? You get? So, yeah, it's a thing of beauty.
How long will it take for a demo?
It's take a while. It's take a while.
You can do an online.
Okay, so maybe
That's what
Online
Kratix
sessions.
does.
what is it?
That's what Kratix.
Yeah.
Kratix, yeah, it allows you to do that.
Are there videos on YouTube?
Yeah, I think there are lots of, even on their website. So you can even go on go to kratix.io. On their website, on their docs, we go to docs.kratix.io. They have something called workshop.
Okay.
All right, workshop. So it's like a guided tutorial on how to set up something. So you can just follow it, all right? Because actually, even that was something similar we're going to do anyways. But just follow it, and you see the beauty of it. All right. So
Background, like this.
Yeah, so
dedicate.
this is landscape. This is landscape. CSF.
Okay.
So why I brought this up was because most of us here are from the KCNA bootcamp. There's life beyond Kubernetes. That's what I wanted to show you. All right, there's an entire ecosystem beyond Kubernetes, and that's the whole cloud native part, which also ties into what Aaron was saying. Like, go in here, check out.
It's massive.
This is crazy, man.
You can be lost.
Yeah.
They have no good
I went last year. I did. Was it 20? This your first match Kubernetes by this guy.
Okay. Yeah. Zero to merge.
Zero to merge, and they showed me this stuff, and I forgot his name. And does that? I said, it's like a notion. But how do you, for someone who wants to contribute, who wants to look for open first issues, and you don't show him this? Where does this start? And you have to start checking GitHub repo of each one.
Yeah, well, yeah. So again, just like what he said, something that you are interested in.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not yet interested. I'll probably go back to implement what he has said. I've not contributed to Kratix. But again, thinking about it, because it's really something I'm really. So there are two projects right now that I'm so interested in. One is not here, but Kratix is here. The other one that I really love, I'm a Dagger. I just
Okay, they don't be accepted.
look, Dagger is not here. CI/CD, thing, and even now, most of what they've been doing is using AI within the CI. Let's not start. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Where's the demo?
Online.
So we're actually supposed to have left here by 3, but we'll quickly let's see.
I was senior engineer.
So I will.
Good mood.